Section 17 of the Aeneid. This is a Librivox recording. All Librivox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit librivox.org. Recording by Mary J. The Aeneid by Virgil, translated by J.W.MacKail. Book 9th, The Siege of the Trojan Camp, Part 1. And while thus things pass far in the distance, Juno, daughter of Saturn, sent Iris down the sky to gallant Turnus, then haply seated in his forefather Pilumnus' holy forest dell. To him the child of Thomas spoke thus with roseate lips. Turnus, what no god had dared promise to thy prayer, behold, is brought unasked by the circling day. Aeneas hath quitted town, and comrades, and fleet, to seek Evander's throne and Palatine dwelling place. Nor is it enough. He hath pierced to Corythus' utmost cities, and is mustering in arms a troop of Lydian rustics. Why hesitate? Now is the time to call for a chariot and horses. Break through all hindrance, and seize the bewildered camp. She spoke, and rose into the sky on poised wings, and flashed under the clouds in a long flying bow. He knew her, and, lifting either hand to heaven, with his cry pursued her flight. Iris, grace of the sky, who hath driven thee down the clouds to me, and borne thee to earth? Whence is this sudden sheen of weather? I see the sky parting asunder, and the wandering stars in the firmament. I follow the high omen, whoso thou art that callest me to arms. And with these words he drew nigh the wave, and caught up water from its brimming eddy, making many prayers to the gods, and burdening the air with vows. And now all the army was advancing on the open plain, rich in horses, rich in raiment of broidered gold. Messapus rules the foremost ranks, the sons of Tyreus the rear. Turnus commands the center, even as Ganges rising high in silence when his 7 streams are still, or the rich flood of Nile when he ebbs from the plains, and is now sunk into his channel. On this the Teucrians descry a sudden cloud of dark dust gathering, and the blackness rising on the plain. Caicus raises a cry from the mound in front. What mass of misty gloom, O citizens, is rolling hitherward? To arms, in haste! Serve out weapons, climb the walls, the enemy approaches, ho! With mighty clamor the Teucrians pour in through all the gates and fill the works. For so at his departure Aeneas the great captain had enjoined. Were aught to chance meanwhile, they should not venture to range their line or trust the plain, but keep their camp and the safety of the entrenched walls. So, though shame and wrath beckon them on to battle, they yet bar the gates and do his bidding, and await the foe armed and in shelter of the towers. Turnus, who had flown forward in advance of his tardy column, comes up suddenly to the town with a train of 20 chosen cavalry, borne on a Thracian horse dappled with white and covered by a golden helmet with scarlet plume. Who will be with me, my men, to be first on the foe? See! He cries, and sends a javelin spinning into the air to open battle, and advances, towering on the plain. His comrades take up the cry, and follow with dreadful din, wondering at the Teucrians' coward hearts, that they issue not on even field, nor face them in arms, but keep in shelter of the camp. Hither and thither he rides furiously, tracing the walls and seeking entrance where way is none. And as a wolf prowling about some crowded sheepfold, when, beaten sore of winds and rains, he howls at the pens by midnight. Safe beneath their mothers the lambs keep bleating on. He, savage and insatiate, rages in anger against the flock he cannot reach, tired by the long-gathering madness for food, and the throat unslaked with blood. Even so the Rutulian, as he gazes on the walled camp, kindles in anger, and indignation is hot in his iron frame. By what means may he essay entrance? By what passage hurl the imprisoned Trojans from the rampart and fling them on the plain? Close under the flanking camp lay the fleet, fenced about with mounds in the waters of the river. It he attacks, and calls for fire to his exultant comrades, and eagerly catches a blazing pine torch in his hand. Then indeed they press on, quickened by Turnus' presence, and all the band arm them with black faggots. The heart fires are plundered, the smoky brand trails a resinous glare, and the fire god sends cloud of glowing ashes upward. What god, O Muses, guarded the Trojans from the rage of the fire? Who repelled the fierce flame from their ships? Tell it, ancient is the assurance thereof, but the fame everlasting. What time Aeneas began to shape his fleet on Phrygian Ida, and prepared to seek the high seas, the Berecintian, they say, the very mother of gods, spoke to high Jove in these words: Grant, O son, to my prayer, what her dearness claims who bore thee and laid Olympus under thy feet. My pine forest, beloved of me these many years, my grove was on the mountain's crown, whither men bore my holy things, dim with dusky pine and pillared maples. These, when he required a fleet, I gave gladly to the Dardanian. Now fear wrings me with sharp distress. Relieve my terrors, and grant to mothers' prayers such power that they may yield to no stress of voyaging or of stormy gust. Be birth on our hills their veil. Thus her son in answer, who wheels the starry worlds. O mother, whither callest thou fate? Or what dost thou seek for these of thine? May wholes have the right of immortality that were fashioned by mortal hand? And may Aeneas traverse perils secure in insecurity? To what god is power so great given? Nay, but when, their duty done, they shall lie at last in their Isonian haven. From all that have outgone the waves, and borne their Dardanian captain to the fields of Laurentum, will I take their mortal body, and bid them be goddesses of the mighty deep, even as Dodo the Nereid and Galatea, when they cut the sea that falls away from their breasts in foam. He ended, and by his brother's Stygian streams, by the banks of the pitchy, black, boiling chasm, he nodded confirmation, and shook all Olympus with his nod. So the promised day was come, and the destinies had fulfilled their due time, when Turnus' injury stirred the mother toward the brands from her holy ships. First then a strange light flashed on all eyes, and a great glory from the dawn seemed to dart over the sky, with the choirs of Ida. Then an awful voice fell through air, filling the Trojan and Rutulian ranks. Disquiet not yourselves, O Teucrians, to guard ships of mine, neither arm your hands. Sooner shall Turnus burn the seas than these holy pines. You, go free, go, goddesses of the sea, the mother bids it. And immediately each ship breaks the bond that held it, as with dipping prows they plunge like dolphins deep into the water. From it again, O wonderful and strange, they rise with maidens' faces in like number, and bear out to sea. The Rutulians stood dumb. Messapus himself is terror-stricken among his disordered cavalry. Even the stream of Tiber pauses with hoarse murmur, and recoils from sea. But bold Turnus fails not a whit in confidence. Nay, he raises their courage with words. He chides them. On the Trojans are these portents aimed. Jupiter himself hath bereft them of their wonted succor. Nor do they abide Rutulian sword and fire. So are the seas pathless for the Teucrians, nor is there any hope in flight. They have lost half their world, and we hold the land. In all their thousands the nations of Italy are under arms. In no wise am I dismayed. By those divine oracles of doom the Phrygians insolently advance. Fate and Venus are satisfied, in that the Trojans have touched our fruitful Isonian fields. I too have my fate in reply to theirs, to put utterly to the sword the guilty nation who have robbed me of my bride. Not the sons of Atreus alone are touched by that pain, nor may my seen eye only rise in arms. But to have perished once is enough. To have sinned once should have been enough. In all but utter hatred of the whole of womankind, trust in the sundering rampart, and the hindrance of their trenches, so little between them and death gives thee their courage. Yet have they not seen Troy town, the work of Neptune's hand, sink into fire? But you, my chosen, who of you makes ready to breach their palisade at the sword's point, and join my attack on their fluttered camp? I have no need of Vulcanian arms, of 1,000 ships to meet the Teucrians. All Etruria may join on with them in alliance, nor let them fear the darkness and the cowardly theft of their palladium, and the guards cut down on the fortress height. Nor will we hide ourselves unseen in a horse's belly. In daylight and unconcealed are we resolved to girdle their walls with flame. Not with Grecians will I make them think they have to do, nor a Pelasgic force kept off till the 10th year by Hector. Now, since the better part of day is spent, for what remains refresh our bodies, glad that we have done so well, and expect the order of battle. Meanwhile, charge is given to Messapus to block the gates with pickets of sentries, and encircle the works with watchfires. Twice 7 are chosen to guard the walls with Rutulian soldiery, but each leads 100 men, crimson-plumed and sparkling in gold. They spread themselves about and keep alternate watch, and, lying on the grass, drink deep and set brazen boughs atilt. The fires glow, and the sentinels spend the night awake in games. Down on this the Trojans look forth from the rampart, as they hold the height in arms. Withal, in fearful haste, they try the gates, and lay gangways from bastion to bastion, and bring up missiles. Mnestheus and valiant Serestus speed the work, whom Lord Aeneas appointed, should misfortune call, to be rulers of the people and governors of the state. All their battalions, sharing the lot of peril, keep watch along the walls, and take alternate charge of all that requires defence. On the guard at the gate was Nisus, son of Hyrtacus, most valiant in arms, whom Ida the huntress had sent in Aeneas' company with a fleet javelin and light arrows, and by his side Euryalus, fairest of all the Aeneadae, and wearers of Trojan arms, showing on his unshaven boy's face the first bloom of youth. These two were one in affection, and charged in battle together. Now likewise their common guard kept the gate. Nisus cries, "Lend the gods this fervour to the soul, Euryalus? Or does fatal passion become a proper god to each? Long ere now my soul is restless to begin some great deed of arms, and quiet peace delights it not. Thou seest how confident in fortune the Rutulians stand. Their lights glimmer far apart, buried in drunken sleep, they have sunk to rest. Silence stretches all about. Learn then what doubt, what purpose now rises in my spirit. People in senate, they all cry that Aeneas be summoned, and men be sent to carry him tidings. If they promise what I ask in thy name, for to me the glory of the deed is enough, methinks I can find beneath yonder hillock a path to the walls of Pallanteum town." Euryalus stood fixed, struck through with high ambition, and therewith speaks thus to his fervid friend: "Dost thou shun me then, Nisus, to share thy company in highest deeds? Shall I send thee alone into so great perils? Not thus did my warrior father Opheltes rear and nurture me amid the Argive terror and the agony of Troy, nor thus have I borne myself by the side while following noble Aeneas to his utmost fate. Here is a spirit, yes, here, that scorns the light of day, that deems lightly bought at a life's price that honor to which thou dost aspire." To this Nisus: "Assuredly I had no such fear of thee. No, nor could I. So may great Jupiter, or whoso looks on earth with equal eyes, restore me to thee triumphant. But if haply, as thou seest often and often in so forlorn a hope, if haply chance or deity sweep me to adverse doom, I would have thee survive. Thine age is worthier to live. Be there one to commit me duly to earth, rescued or ransomed from the battlefield. Or, if fortune deny that, to pay me far away the rites of funeral and the grace of a tomb. Neither would I bring such pain on thy poor mother, she who singly of many nations hath dared to follow her boy to the end, and slights great Ancestes' city. And he, in vain dost thou string idle reasons, nor does my purpose yield or change its place so soon. Let us make haste." He speaks and rouses the watch. They come up and relieve the guard, quitting their post. He and Nisus stride on to seek the prince. The rest of living things all over lands were soothing their cares in sleep, and their hearts forgot their pain. The foremost Trojan captains, a chosen band, held council of state upon the kingdom. What should they do? Or who would now be their messenger to Aeneas? They stand, leaning on their long spears and grasping their shields, in mid-level of the camp. Then Nisus and Euryalus together pray with quick urgency to be given audience. Their matter is weighty and will be worth the delay. Aeolus at once heard their hurried plea, and bade Nisus speak. Thereon the son of Hyrtacus: "Hear, O people of Aeneas, with favourable mind, nor regard our years in what we offer. Sunk in sleep and wine, the Rutulians are silent. We have stealthily spied the open ground that lies in the path through the gate next the sea. The line of fires is broken, and their smoke rises darkly upwards. If you allow us to use the chance towards seeking Aeneas in Pallanteum town, you will soon descry us here at hand with the spoils of the great slaughter we have dealt. Nor shall we miss the way we go. Up the dim valleys we have seen the skirts of the town, and learned all the river and continual hunting." Thereon, aged Aeneas, sage in council: "Gods of our fathers, under whose deity Troy ever stands, not wholly yet do you purpose to blot out the Trojan race, when you have brought us young honor and hearts so sure as this." So speaking, he caught both by shoulder and hand, with tears showering down over face and feature. "What guerdon shall I deem may be given you, O men? What recompense for these noble deeds? First and fairest shall be your reward from the gods in your own conduct, and Aeneas the good shall speedily repay the rest, and Ascanius' fresh youth never forget so great a service." "Nay," breaks in Ascanius, "I, whose sole safety is in my father's return, I adjure thee and him, O Nisus, by our great household gods, by the tutelar spirit of Assaracus and Horvesta's sanctuary, on your knees I lay all my fortune in trust. Recall my father, give him back to sight. All sorrow disappears in his recovery. I will give a pair of cups my father took and vanquished Arisba, wrought in silver and rough with tracery, twin tripods, and 2 large talents of gold, and an ancient bowl of Sidonian Dido's giving. If it be indeed our lot to possess Italy and grasp the conquering scepter, and to assign the spoil, thou sawest the horse and armor of Turnus, as he went all in gold. That same horse, the shield and the ruddy plume, will I reserve from partition, thy reward, O Nisus, even from now. My father will give besides 12 mothers of the choicest beauty, and men captives, all in their due array. Above these, the space of meadow land that is now King Latinus' own domain. Thee, O noble boy, whom mine age follows at a nearer interval, even now I welcome to all my heart, and embrace as my companion in every fortune. No glory shall be sought for my state without thee. Whether peace or war be in conduct, my chiefest trust for deed and word shall be in thee. Answering whom, Euryalus speaks thus: Let but the day never come to prove me degenerate from this daring valor. Fortune may fall prosperous or adverse, but above all thy gifts one thing I ask of thee, my poor mother of Priam's ancient race, whom neither the Ilian land nor King Ancestor's city kept from following me forth. Her I now leave in ignorance of this danger, such as it is, and without a farewell, because, Knight, in thine hand be witness, I cannot bear a parent's tears. But thou, I pray, support her want and relieve her loneliness. Let me take with me this hope in thee. I shall go more daringly to every fortune. Deeply stirred at heart, the Dardanians shed tears. Fair Aeolus before them all, as the likeness of his own father's love wrung his soul. Then he speaks thus: Assure thyself all that is due to thy mighty enterprise, for she shall be a mother to me, and only in name failed to be Creusa. Nor slight is the honor reserved for the mother of such a son. What chance soever follow this deed, I swear by this head whereby my father was wont to swear, what I promise to thee on thy prosperous return shall abide the same for thy mother and kindred. So speaks he weeping, and ungirds from his shoulder the sword inlaid with gold, fashioned with marvelous skill by Lycaon of Gnosus, and fitly set in a sheath of ivory. Mnestheus gives Nisus the shaggy spoils of a lion's hide. Faithful Aeneas exchanges his helmet. They advance onward in arms, and as they go all the company of captains, young and old, speed them to the gates with vows. Likewise for fair Aeolus, with a man's thought and spirit beyond his years, gave many messages to be carried to his father. But the breezes shred all asunder and give them unaccomplished to the clouds. They issue and cross the trenches, and through the shadow of the night seek the fatal camp, themselves and first to be the death of many a man. All about they see bodies strewn along the grass in drunken sleep, chariots a tilt on the shore, and men lying among their traces and wheels, with their armor by them and their wine. The son of Hyrtacus began thus: Euryalus, now for daring hands, all invites them, here lies our way. See thou that none raise a hand from behind against us, and keep far-sighted watch. Here will I deal desolation, and make a broad path for thee to follow. So speaks he, and checks his voice. Therewith he drives his sword at lordly Rhamnes, who haply on carpets heaped high was drawing the full breath of sleep. A king himself, and King Turnus' best-loved augur, but not all his augury could avert his doom. 3 of his household beside him, lying carelessly among their arms, and the armor-bearer and charioteer of Remus go down before him, caught at the horses' feet. Their drooping necks he severs with the sword, then beheads their lord likewise, and leaves the trunks spouting blood. The dark warm gore soaks ground and cushions. Therewithal Amiris and Lamus, and beautiful young Serranus, who that night had played long and late, and lay with the conquering god heavy on every limb. Happy had he played out the night, and carried his game today. Even thus an unfed lion riots through full sheepfolds, for the madness of hunger urges him, and champs and rends the fleecy flock that are dumb with fear, and roars with blood-stained mouth. Nor less is the slaughter of Euryalus. He too rages all aflame. An unnamed multitude go down before his path, and Fatus and Herbesus and Rhetus and Abaris unaware. Rhetus awake and seeing all, but he hid in fear behind a great bull, right in whose breast, as he rose by, he plunged the sword all its length, and drew it back heavy with death. He vomits forth the crimson life-blood, and throws up wine mixed with blood in the death agony. The other presses hotly on his stealthy errand, and now bent his way towards Messapus' comrades, where he saw the last flicker of the fires go down, and the horses tethered in order, cropping the grass, when Nisus briefly speaks thus, for he saw him carried away by excess of murderous desire. Let us stop, for unfriendly daylight draws nigh. Vengeance is sated to the full. A path is cut through the enemy. Much they leave behind, men's armor wrought in solid silver, and bowls therewith, and beautiful carpets. Euryalus tears away the decorations of Rhamnes, and his sword belt embossed with gold, a gift which Caedicus, wealthiest of men of old, sends to Remulus of Tibur when plighting friendship far away. He on his deathbed gives them to his grandson for his own. After his death the Rutulians captured them as spoil of war. These he fits on the shoulders valiant and vain, then puts on Messapus' light helmet with its graceful plumes. They issue from the camp and make for safety. End of section 17.